So it looks like cash ISAs might be on the chopping block, and if you save in cash, this is going to affect you. So I've come to a bit of a realization with what the reality of what actually is going on. So let's go over it in this video. So I've read all the articles, I've got all my notes here, I've gone through the proposed changes, who's behind them, who's against them, and what you can do to protect your money. So in short, a cash ISA allows you to put up to £20,000 into cash savings and earn a return on it without having to pay any tax on any of the gains that you make. And with the interest rates having gone up over the last few years, it's become a good place to be able to put some cash aside, even if you're saving for a house, or if you're reaching retirement, or if you just want the security and safety of a bit of cash on the side. So it looks like Rachel Reeves is now going to go after this, and on the 15th of July we're looking like we're going to be getting an update, and it looks like that the cash ISA is going to potentially get reduced to as much as £4,000. Now the thinking behind this is that Rachel Reeves wants to have more people putting more money into the UK economy, investing into UK businesses. The London Stock Exchange has seen a drought in terms of new companies being listed, and it is affecting UK growth. There are currently 12.7 million people in the UK using cash ISAs, and in April alone, £14.7 billion was put into cash ISAs. As news of this coming around the corner was starting to spook people, so they're wanting to put money away to make sure they secure it. That was a record. We've never seen as much money going in to cash ISAs as we have in the month of April this year. There are currently £300 billion worth of UK cash sat in cash ISAs at the moment. Now, of course, there's no tax being paid on any of that. And of course, none of that money is being invested into UK businesses. So at the moment, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you can earn £1,000 from interest from your cash savings before you have to pay anything on the tax. If you're a higher rate, it's £500. And if you're an additional rate, you don't get any tax breaks whatsoever. You have to pay tax on everything that you earn in terms of interest. So as an example, if a higher rate taxpayer has over £14,500 in cash and they don't use a cash ISA, they're then going to fall into the category of having to pay tax. Now that might sound like a lot of money, but that might be someone's nest egg, their pension. It might be money that a couple are saving to put a deposit on a house. It's going to mean that they are going to be liable to tax on the savings that they have above that threshold, and they're going to have to start filling in self-assessment forms as well. We have seen obviously a lot of support for this in the city, and naturally that makes sense because a lot of big banks, investing institutions, the likes of IG, have been big supporters of this because they want more people to be putting more money into the market, because obviously they're going to make more money out of that. AJ Bell have been a bit more pragmatic about it, and they're asking for a reduction in the stamp duty. So at the moment you pay 0.5% on any UK investments that you buy, and they've also asked for a total reform of how the whole process works. But Rachel Reeves is coming under a lot of pressure from large financial institutions to be moving more money out of cash and into investments. Naturally, the likes of Martin Lewis has not been a supporter of this, and he has called this piss off people economics. So obviously he's more into cash and less into investments in terms of his approach. And he thinks that this is really sort of shooting the average man when they're down. There has been a lot of pressure against it, of course, from the likes of personal finance experts, financial planners. Some MPs have been pushing back against it. They're saying the government is removing choice from people and pushing them into products that they don't necessarily understand. Now, there is something that I'm more concerned about here, and something that isn't being talked about by a lot of people. I haven't actually seen anyone talking about it. So if she wants more money being put into UK businesses, just reducing the cash ISA alone is not going to enable that. There's two problems with that. First of all, people don't understand how to invest. We don't have a culture of investing in the UK. Now, it is growing, and there are a lot of creators like myself out there trying to help people to get started with this sort of stuff. But millions of people will never come across this channel. Millions of people will never come across Damien, for example. People don't necessarily want to find out. They want the security of the cash that they can have on the side, ready when they need it, growing tax-free at a lesser rate, yes, granted, but that's what they want, and that's what they should be allowed to have. So the problem is that they're not just going to stop at this, are they? How can they stimulate UK growth by just reducing the cash ISA? So what I think is going to happen is they're going to come after stocks and shares ISAs as well. Now, Rachel Reeves has said that she's not going to be reducing the total overall allowance, which is currently at £20,000. So what I predict might happen is that allowance is going to stay as it is, £20,000 as a total. £4,000, £5,000 is going to be allocated to cash ISAs, for example. The remaining £15,000 or total £20,000, if you want to put that into the market like I do, you're not going to be allowed to just put that into whatever you want. There will be a proponent of that, and I don't know what the mechanics might be and how they're going to work this out, which we're going to be trying to direct us and push us into UK businesses. Otherwise, it's pointless, the whole exercise that they're doing, because the average investor that is clued up on this sort of stuff doesn't invest into UK businesses. I've just looked over my portfolio before this. I have 7% allocation into UK businesses. The rest is into US, global funds, S&P 500s. I have a very little proportion into UK businesses because the growth is so poor, and it has been so poor for so very long. So the only way that they can change that is by forcing people into UK businesses. So I worry that that might be coming down the track as well. Now, previously, they did talk about the British ISA in the previous government, which was allowing £20,000 to be put into the market, and you use it however you want, and then you get an additional £5,000, but you have to put that into UK businesses. So that got put on the chopping block, and that that's not going to happen now. But what I do think might happen is a proportion of our stocks and shares ISAs might get forced into UK businesses. Now, clearly that's going to stagnate the growth of the likes of you and I, who are relatively clued up on this sort of stuff and want to get the best possible returns that we can. Maybe it will inject a little bit of money into UK businesses, but not very much at all. You're not going to have Dorothy at number 33 ploughing £20,000 into Diageo. It's not going to happen. And clearly, in order to implement this, it probably will be very complex, and I don't know how they would do it. And they'd obviously have to work with the brokers in order to do it. So it's whether that will happen or not, I don't know, but it is something that I am actively worried about. Right, in the view of being balanced, let's give an alternative view, right? So I have jotted this down as well. So but perhaps maybe it does end up being good for the UK. So maybe we do see an increase in the amount of money getting invested into the UK, and the UK economy grows, and it is more attractive for startups in the UK because it is very difficult. It is fair to say, Andrew Craig talks about this a lot. It's very difficult to get funding for your UK business from floating onto the market. And perhaps they're going to do, alongside this, they're going to do an education piece and get people more clued up. Perhaps they're going to get people to understand how to invest. They're going to make it simpler. They're going to support people, not necessarily investing into individual businesses in the UK, but trying to get more people to invest into the FTSE 100, for example. They're going to do an education course at school. I don't know. I'm laughing because it's not going to happen, right? I am just trying to play devil's advocate here and give an alternative view. But maybe in the long term, it does end up being good for the UK. The other point that I want to put across in terms of support for this is that at the moment around 6-7% of people invest into a stocks and shares ISA, and it is way more for cash ISAs. So maybe as part of this, we're going to close the gap to the US. In the US, believe it or not, there is over 50% of people that are investing into the market. There is a real culture of investing in the US, and people embrace it, and people see the value of it, and it is part of people. You know, people understand how to do it. They've been educated on it. Some American people, let's be clear here, half of them don't have passports. So if we're at 6% now and 50% in the US, perhaps they're just looking to close that gap a little bit and make retail investors more clued up on this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think this is a terrible decision. If it does go forward, it will be the biggest reform in ISIS for a very long time. And it'll be forcing people to do what they won't necessarily want to do. It's going to be bad for the popularity of the party, for the lady herself, and it potentially will affect negatively a lot of people, especially, like I said, those saving for big purchase items like houses. Maybe it'll have an impact on the housing market. For those that are close to retirement and want cash buffers on the side, for those that aren't prepared to invest into the market because they're not prepared to take the risk, they don't want to, that is their choice. You can't force someone to invest into the stock market. So look, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll do another update if we need to, but it looks like there's going to be big changes coming on the 15th of July. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I don't see it as a good thing. Just jumping on here quick again, there's one thing that I forgot to mention in terms of how you can get around this. There is a way you can get around this, actually. If you do just want to keep your money in cash, what you can actually do is open a stocks and shares ISA. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Put your £20,000 allowance into that stocks and shares ISA. The likes of Trading 2 and 2, I'm just looking at it here now, will give you 4.35% on the cash that you don't invest. So it means opening a stocks and shares ISA, putting your cash in, not investing it, and getting that 4.35% back. So it is one way to get around it. I just thought I'd add this at the end.